Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Practical Pet Business. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us a few minutes or so. Sometimes Rob can be a little long-winded, but Lauren, it's always worth it because you share so many different things, and that's the incentive that this brings to all of you. Speaking of incentives, Lauren, price discounting, incentives, all of these different things that folks are hitting us up about. How did you approach that? Because too much discounting becomes an expectation of discounts all the
Mhm.
time. Incentives, price matching, MAP, this, that, well, really can be overwhelming. And I know we've been hit up lately a couple of times about this exact topic. How did you approach it in your business?
Yeah, it's complicated. And it's even more prevalent now than it was when I had my store. Because everything is about price, especially right now. Everything's about price. Um, and everybody wants to compete. So if you want to compete and it's about price, what's the inclination to create a sale, a special, a discount, something like that? I didn't discount very often in my store. I had an anniversary sale once a year that was killer and lasted for an entire month, and all the manufacturers participated in. And for that month, I mean the prices were just, I mean, easy six-figure month. Before we were even halfway into the month. So, from my perspective, that was the big discount. So, where that became even more prevalent is I'm somewhat ornery. So, I don't like when a customer calls 3 months after the anniversary sale and says, "When's the next sale going to be on this product?" Oh, we just had an anniversary sale 3 months ago. Yeah, and I stocked up then, but I'm almost out and I want to buy it on sale again. Okay, well, it was a sale, not the regular price. And what happens when you continually discount something is you make that the new regular price. There's a line of food that at that time was constantly giving discounts, constantly. And I was so annoyed because it was like, I'm never going to be able to sell this ridiculously priced, expensive food at regular price because you created the expectation that all the time there is a discount. And I eventually removed the product because a number of reasons, but not the least of which was, I mean, if they, because they were getting pushback from some other retailers about that constant sale thing, they just started putting coupons inside the product. And I was like, okay, you're missing the point here.
Right.
You're creating a normal that isn't normal. Um, and I like flash sales. I like pop-up sales. I like you know, uh, some little twist or tweak to the deal. I don't like things that become the normal expectation. Um, how do you counter that? You hold true to your, to your philosophy. And I would have people who came in and said, "So your competition over here, by the way, these are almost never my regular customers. They were people pitting me against my competition, right? Who were looking to get the best deal that they could. So they would come into me and say, "So I'm able to get this price over here. Can you match that?" Well, if you're able to get that, you don't need me to match it. Well, just get it.
Right.
Well, I'd rather buy it here. Okay, I barely know you. I've seen you in here once, and I'm not trusting this at all. And I was never the person who felt like I needed to have every customer, every single person needed to be my customer. Everybody they have their own customer base for reasons. Um, but I wasn't above trying to win over a customer either. But I didn't price match ever, ever. And if they would say, well, why are they able to do that? Well, I was very upfront with people. Maybe they haven't caught that there was recently a price increase, and they haven't adjusted their prices. Maybe, and that happens a lot.
Yep.
Maybe they have some sort of a promo they're running with the manufacturer, and I'll have a promo at a different time, and they won't have that promo. Um, and I was real upfront with people to tell them I'm not going to price match because it never ends, right? It's like extortion. I need it to be this in order for me to do that. And it's like, no, no, I'm not going to constantly chase this because what happens to my profit margin? If the profit margin is constantly chipmunked away, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, I'm not going to be able to open and function on the day to day. I couldn't pay my exceedingly well-trained staff. I couldn't provide the services that I was offering, like free consultations for my customers. Um, those sorts of things that have monetary value, but aren't necessarily being monetized. And so it has to come from somewhere. And I think a lot of people lose sight of what they're actually supposed to do with their profit margin. That's the other thing too. I see profit margins kind of all over the map. When I've been contacted and tried to help some people and said, well, where's your profit margin? They can't tell me succinctly based on a category what that markup is. And they can't even tell me why they can't tell me that. It's like, okay, well, I have two prices. I have an X amount on food, which is just food, regardless of the kind of food it is. This is my percentage of markup. And on everything else, it was Keystone. So it wasn't hard for me to ever know what I was in something for. And at the same time, that still didn't mean that I was going to negotiate with somebody. And it's interesting how people will come in to a store and think that because you're a small business, that they can haggle with you to negotiate the price. And I would look at them and go, would you walk into any other mainstream store, Costco, Nordstrom, any store, and want to negotiate the retail price that's on the floor, Target, any of them? Well, no, because I kid you not, this was said more than to me more than one time by different people. No, but they're real businesses. They're real stores.
Oh, oh, oh. Uh, I'll bet
Excuse
you
me?
wish you had the ejector button at that point.
Oof.
Yeah,
Good thing you couldn't read what was coming across my forehead.
yeah,
And I said, well, like those stores, I too am a real store. And this is not a swap meet. So
yeah.
we're not going to haggle and negotiate this. I have overhead, I have brick and mortar overhead, I have all the utility, I have everything that all of those real stores have, I also have. And, it just, it was mind-boggling and insulting. Some of the things that people would try to negotiate their way into. And you have to be okay to let them walk away.
Yeah.
Because they're ultimately not your customer anyway. They're not anybody's customer. They're chasing the price. So they're completely disloyal.
Yeah, and you're not going to outprice all the competition. That's the problem, right? So if
Yeah,
it's about price, you've already lost. I
that's
love that
correct.
you say too, you can get that discount there, go get it there. Like that probably blew a few people's minds. I'm
Hmm.
like, wait, what? No way. Why would you do that? You have a chance to bet. Price is not how you build loyalty.
Right.
Stability in price, yes, but flash sales or I'll match wherever, and that is you want to be the most trusted source. You want to be known for the quality source. But I also want to bring up that other part of for those of you who aren't understanding or aren't feeling like they don't get what they're doing. The problem is also with discounting is it's not just the discount you give that may be quick to calculate for you. but it's you have additional costs now to restock, to prep for that, sale, all the rest of that. And, I just pulled up real quick here. Because numbers, I'm a numbers guy. I love seeing numbers, right? So let's just take that $80 bag of dog food that maybe costs $60. Your profit on that's 25% at $20, right? But if I give a 10% discount, because this is where a lot of people go wrong, I'm gonna give 10% discount. Well, okay, so that's an $8 discount. My profit went from $20 to $12
Mhm.
just on, top level pricing here. We're not getting into all the labor and all the rest of that stuff. But so my profit went from, you know, 20 to 12. I just lost 40% of my profit. So that 10% discount has now cost me 40%. And that's
Right.
before I start to get into the additional numbers of labor, shelf space, rent, electricity, all the rest of that stuff. So very quickly you can start to chip away. Like you said, the little chipmunking thing. I might have gone with a different, less cute animal, but that's okay. That's how you are, Lauren.
There are no animals that aren't cute.
Well,
No, there are no animals that are not cute.
I'm not gonna argue that one out because I'm sure that will generate a lot of emails to practicalpetchat at
That I have to
gmail.com
read.
that you have to read that I definitely don't want to have to follow up with the apologies because Lauren can reach through the screen and grab me by my ear and get me to do that. But no, I think what's so interesting too is it also changed that mentality, right? And that is never what your store was about. I never walked in thinking, ooh, I'm going to go to 12 different, places and walk in for the 12 different products I want to buy at Lauren's store and go, hey, over here or over there, or over, then go there. I love that you said that because that is so empowering. But here's the weird part too, right? It also changes that mental
Sure
psyche.
does.
When I walk in, why am I going here in the first place? Because there's, big boxes online, down the street, etc., that I can go to if I'm price chasing. I'm not quality chasing when I walk. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not quality chasing when I'm about price only. It's also who you have. And you and I have talked about you have this group as well. Those people, I don't see, now I may see if you had the annual sale, hey, is it time for that annual sale? There are plenty of times where I will look forward and I might hold off. But I always thought you were great about, hey guys, I'm going to have an upcoming sale on this, or I've got an opportunity on that. Again, trust. Again, that trusted source side of it is not just the ingredients in the bags or the quality of what you were selling. It was the quality and character of your store is around,
Well, and our value wasn't the price.
right?
Our value was everything else around that, you
But you
know?
also weren't hyper priced. And I think
No.
that's important to call out for those who never got the blessing of going to your store. I was not paying a 50% premium to go to your store and
Mm-mm.
get all the things that we talk about. It was in line with all of those around. There was a value judgment on mine and your other customers. I'm going there. I'm not as concerned about the price. I'm concerned about doing what's best for my pet. And I know whatever I leave Lauren's store with is going to be a reinforcement of my pet parent philosophy because that was your pet business philosophy. And I think
Yeah,
that,
I didn't charge more because of the value that we provided. I mean, every store owner agonizes over pricing correctly. You want to price well enough to get the margin that you need to do the business that you have, to run the business that you have. But at the same time, you don't want to overprice because you don't want to gouge anybody, and you know that everybody is price shopping, and comparing. But you also don't want to be necessarily the lowest. And sometimes we heard that you're like cheaper than this store and that store. I don't want to
yep.
say, big box stores. And I'd be like, what makes you think that we would be more? Well, because you're a small business, right? We're very conscientious about looking at the pricing of this. So I already felt like our pricing was fair. So I didn't feel like I needed a price match.
Right.
I felt like, and I would tell that to people, I feel like my pricing's fair, and to save $1, and some people might say, well, for $1, I would have price matched. Well, what makes you think the dollar is where that stops? Because once you do it, much like extortion, you are now in a situation of you did it last time, you did it for me before, and it becomes a bigger issue the second time. The first
Right.
time it's just mind-blowing for them. The second time they take it as an insult.
Well, and I love that you're talking about showing your worth, growing your worth can't happen if you're constantly discounting either, because
Yeah.
you're taking resources away. Again, it's not just the monetary, it's the other things that go into doing all of that. And to your point, when you said that, it brought up a transaction that I experienced recently. Not myself, I was not the person who did this, but someone said, "Oh, if I go to so and so down the street," and they were like, "Okay, show it to me," because they were willing to price match. And the person's like, "Well, I'm sure I've got it here, but I know because I was in there the other day and I was going to get it there, but I'm here now, so you should just give me that price." And I was laughing because I was like, "Wow, the gumption on this person to like, you should just trust me because I want a
Mhm.
discount."
There's
Uh,
lots of gumption out there. It's
yeah,
amazing what people
it
think
is. Oh
it's
my
okay
god,
to ask for. Where I heard it the most was in grooming, where people would say, "Oh my gosh, this place over here, they only charge $30." I mean, it became such a running joke in my store that, we all have these little jokes, after the fact, after something happens. We actually talked about, I would never do it because I wouldn't want to, drag another business down. But we talked about putting up a banner out front that said we fix $30 haircuts, because it's like you got what you paid for. You get
right?
quite a bit more than that here. That's why we're not $30.
Yeah,
But, it's so fascinating to look at how people cannot wrap their head around why something is the price it is, what goes into it. So for me, the best thing to do is be upfront,
right, right.
and tell them.
Well, and know your value. And
Yes.
that is, at the end of the day, what your business is. And so if you're discounting and you're price matching, all of those things become a part of what your business is. Is that
Yeah.
really the worth of your business? Are you a discount business or are you a trusted business? And at the end of the day, um, there was never any doubt in what I saw in your business. It was a trusted business. But as a pet parent, it didn't matter if it wasn't Lauren's business that I was going to. I wanted to always go to a trusted business
Mhm.
because the minute it became about price, I don't need to leave my chair. I can always find something.
Exactly.
So why am I getting up? Why am I putting in the effort? Because I trust I'm going to get the best results by going to this business. Price, product, quality, education, all of those things. So, no, I love that. Great discussion today. Hopefully, all of you out there, I know we went probably a little bit longer than we normally do, but this is something we're both so passionate about. Um, if you've got a topic you'd love to see Lauren and I discuss, please send us an email, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. We're always happy to do that. You can leave a comment on any of the different social media networks and all that we're involved in, wherever you listen to your podcast, your vidcast, or any of the other casts out there. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy week to spend some of it with us. We really appreciate you. We know you're building a trusted business. Thank you for trusting us to be a part of your building. We look forward to seeing your success. Share that with us. And as always, thanks for joining us here on Practical Pet Business.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.